doing amazing. If you're watching live, happy Christmas Eve. And I just hope and pray that whatever's happening for you today, it's all good. And thank you for stopping by and being here live as we talk about 24 habits to help make you bulletproof in 2019. My name is Susan Sly, and in addition to being a best-selling author, speaker, entrepreneur, tech investor, I'm also a mom of 5. And this past year, I can tell you there have definitely been some tremendous wins, and there have also been some times of introspection. As my friend Michelle once taught me, there are great days and there are growing days. And so today was one such growing day. If you're here live, you're like, she started late. I arrived in my office and the internet wasn't working. Yeah, I mean, I can't even believe it. It's business internet too. So I had to restart my, reset the routers, modems rather, a couple of times, but here I am now and it's all perfect. So I, again, want to acknowledge all of you who are here for this very special edition of Bulletproof Monday. So I want to jump right into it. You know, the majority of people around this time of year, they're thinking about what they're going to do differently in 2019, the next year. And some of the resolutions, in fact, the top 3 are this. I want to get healthy, I want to make more money, and I definitely want to get more organized. The reality is only 8% of people actually achieve the goals they set for themselves in January, if you can believe that. And that comes from a study by Go Banking, and that was on 5,000 people. And the reality is by the end of January, over 72% of people have given up on their goals. And so we tend to set these goals and we get all excited. Maybe we read a book or we listen to a podcast or something, and then suddenly life begins to happen. And the reality is, if we're trying to be a new person with the same habits, nothing's going to change for us. And, you know, you can't produce the habits that you've set for yourself, because eventually, and as a certified coach and NLP coach and trainer, that these programs that we run below the surface are either setting us up for success or setting us up for sabotage. So if you've been running some old programs that are keeping you broke or keeping you overweight or unhealthy or in toxic relationships, until you change those programs, your life isn't going to be any different. And how do we begin to change the programs? It starts with beginning with new habits. Does it take 21 days to make a new habit? The answer is 100% no, because Sonia, it might take her, 5 days because she's a rock star. Maybe it's going to take Jim 40 days because he's had this habit so long. Maybe he's been a smoker for 30 years and suddenly he's like, I'm going to quit cold turkey. Well, it might take him longer than 21 days to stop craving cigarettes. And so one of the things that we want to do, and I like to share with my clients and all of you, is we want to begin to chunk down our habits into very bite-sized pieces. So what I like to suggest is adopting, say, 2 new habits a month. If you live into 2 new habits a month and you start those new habits the first of the month and you're like, yes, I'm going to do this, going to do this, going to do this. And then you start 2 new habits, you're living into the previous 2. By the end of the year, that's 24 new habits. And I want to ask you this question. If you developed 24 new habits and you really rocked them in 2019, would that change your life maybe? Would it change your finances, your relationships, your health? Of course it would. And I just wanted to begin with utter transparency. And as I come on these Bulletproof Mondays, I really have nothing to hide. So I prayed over this yesterday as I was preparing, and I have my notes of all the habits here, and I will send you these notes if you're a subscriber. So if you go to susansly.com, you can get the notes for today's Bulletproof Monday. I'm happy to send those to you. Just subscribe to my newsletter. Anyway, so a year ago at this time, let's take it back maybe about 16 months ago, I was not in the best of places. And what you see with me is this, mom of 5, and she runs these companies and she's all over the world and rescuing kids from trauma and doing all this stuff. But what you didn't see was someone who had this lifelong dream, and every time I would try and pursue this dream, doors would shut, doors would shut, doors would shut. And in the goal of pursuing this dream, we actually, this is very transparent, wiped out all of our savings, and I'm a massive saver in order to do this. So 16 months ago, we were in a position where I had made a decision to really get my family settled. And we had been renting a house here in America because being Canadians and some of the changes, they didn't really want to give us a home loan for a certain size. And so we were negotiating, and one bank, I won't name the bank, was like, yeah, we're going to give it to you. You have excellent credit score. It's above 800. You're awesome. You make all this money. And then they're like, no, we can't do it because you're Canadian and you haven't solidified your immigration status. So there we were with a week to go. We had been renting to own this house. We'd put this massive down payment on it. It was a deal I made with a friend of mine who agreed to sell me his house. And there the clock was ticking. And with a week to go, we had no financing. And at the last minute, we cashed out all of our savings in Canada, brought our dollars across at, this is very transparent. And I don't care. I know there are a lot of speakers I speak with that won't tell you one thing about their personal life, and that's their choice. I'm not that person. And I realize in being very transparent, you're going to say, well, she's not perfect. Why would I follow her? But that's okay, because the tribe I'm building in 2019, we're not embracing perfection. We're embracing progress. So I hope that by telling you this story, it really helps you. So wiped out all of our savings, brought across our money, and at 65 cents on the dollar, which meant that we lost 35 cents on the dollar to be able to buy this house. And we were so sure we were going to get our green cards, and we had spent a fortune on legal fees and transition fees. And I would say it was close to about $150,000, and, you know, do our application, and found out we were denied just around this time last year. So I was heartbroken. I had just wiped out my savings to buy this house. I, you know, have wanted to live in America. No offense, I'm Canadian. I love Canada, but I grew up on the Canada-US border, and I wanted to live in America from the time I was a little kid. I could see the United States from my back window at my house with my dad. And Sundays we watched American football in 60 minutes. We only got one channel. Remember rabbit ears on the television? I don't know if any of you had those growing up, but I did. You know, we get Walter Cronkite for the news. And this is just where I knew I wanted to live. And to create that dream, you know, we wiped out everything to be able to do it. Now, thankfully, over the years, I've developed businesses and I had income. And during the same time, while I was going through all of this, I was still recovering from getting sick in Africa a few years ago. And last year I found out I had Lyme disease. So not only was I trying to get over being sick in Africa, dealing with immigration, wiping out my savings, and on top of everything, I get diagnosed with 4 or 5, I can't remember now. I think it was 5 of the 9 different strains of Lyme, and had to begin that treatment, which some months cost me $15,000 plus, if not more. Some of my kids got diagnosed with Lyme. So now I'm laying it all out there. It was really stressful on my marriage. And the reason I'm telling you everything, and at the risk of some of you going, well, again, you know, why would I follow her, is because I want to share with you how I use these habits to change the position of where I am now. So today, here we are. If you're watching this live, it's December 24th, and I have more than doubled my revenue in my my company. That is my company, Step Into Your Power, that includes my agency. More than doubled it over last year. I am now an equity stakeholder in an artificial intelligence company that's based in Silicon Valley and Phoenix. I still have a massive source of residual income from network marketing. I booked paid speaker. Someone wanted to book me as a paid speaker next year, and I actually tripled my price, and they paid it. I'm working on my newest book, and my marriage is on track, and I have money in the bank for emergencies, and I'm learning new skills. And the reason, I hope this is helpful to all of you, because I think sometimes you look at people like myself and think everything's perfect. Well, it is perfect. There are always lessons to learn and things to do. And sometimes in the pursuit of our dreams, there are sacrifices to be made. But by the same token, collateral damage, to use a military term, which essentially means that, you know, there's collateral damage, whether it's people or you know, houses or whatever cities when you're going for a goal. And as we were pursuing this goal in our lives, the collateral damage almost ended up being my marriage. And so as I sit here before you, as we close this year in all vulnerability, the thing I want you to know is I know some of you are going through challenging times. I know some of you, your income isn't where you wanted it to be. Maybe you're winning in health, but not in income, or maybe you're winning in income, but not in health. You know, who knows? But what I want to tell you is a year can make all the difference in the world. So hopefully you're ready to get into these habits. If this is great information, I would love for you to share it. And it's, you know, I'm so happy to see so many of the people who tune in weekly here, Bruce and Hadass and Ivy and Barbara, and so many of you, Gina, who are here every single week for inspiration and upliftment. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first habit that I want to talk about is something I started to do last year, and that was to grade my motivation daily. And so in my notebook that I keep, it's just a spiral notebook, I'll put my level of motivation on a scale of 1 to 10. So I heard a speaker speak at an event I was speaking at, and he talked about this, and he said it was the thing that took him from bankruptcy to making tens of millions. And I'm like, listen, dude, if that takes you to making tens of millions of dollars that a year, that's fantastic. I'm going to do it. So it was so easy. So here we go. Grading your motivation daily. So what I do is I'll grade my health motivation on a scale of 1 to 10. So how motivated am I to get the workout in, to eat clean, to, you know, do those things? And then the next one is my marriage. How motivated am I today to be a great wife to my husband, Chris? And my family. How motivated am I today to be a great mom? And then money, how motivated am I today to make money? And you could add contribution, but you know, so scaling that motivation, I began to do that. And here's what I realized: in the areas I was winning in, I was highly motivated. And the areas that were kind of like not great, those areas I wasn't highly motivated. So how do we change our motivation? It's knowing what is going to cause us to get inspired for that day. For some of you, it's listening to music. Some of you, it's listening to prayer. For me, it was going on YouTube and watching my peers, people I'd done speaking events with, people like Gary Vee, watching what they were doing, and other people, and just doing that. And I'll get to that habit every day, but grading your motivation is a great habit. And that's an easy one to start. It doesn't cost you any money, but man, oh man, do you ever learn about yourself? The second habit is domains, not Dior. So this past year, hey, I love Dior and Chanel like the rest, you know, like a lot of girls. But I started to buy a lot of domains this year on GoDaddy. And I think I'm up to almost 223 domains. And I have enough domains that if I put them all up at auction, I have enough domains to support my family for well over a year. That means keeping my kids in private school and colleges, everything, food, you name it. And so I made a concerted effort this year. I said, you know what, it's great. You know, like, yes, obviously, you know, this is a Chanel necklace, but what you don't know is actually a belt. And I bought it at a consignment store. So everyone's like, oh my gosh, I love your necklace. I walked into a Chanel store. The Chanel guy was like, oh my gosh, I love your necklace. I'm like, dude, it's a belt. And so that was something I did this year. And they were a business write-off, you know, and I read the news and I look at, you know, the trends that are coming. And that's how I choose to buy domains. And so I can auction them off. One of the domains I own, I'm not an attorney, but I own endlegalworries.com. Some attorney might want to buy that. But anyway, so that's one of the things I did. That's one of the things we tell our clients to do at the Agency 8, and it's been amazing. Number 3 is creating an emergency cash fund. So remember I said it's 2 habits a month, 24 a year. So this is when you want to start early on. I have been saying on Bulletproof Monday for, oh gosh, months that a recession was coming. Look at the market. Oh my gosh, I took everything, 80% of all of my investments in my stock portfolio, and I put them into cash weeks and weeks and weeks ago. So grateful to God I did. And so you want to have that emergency fund that is in cash, somewhere that's not easy to touch. You can't use your ATM card or whatever to get it. Minimum of 3 months, mortgage, rent, groceries, and start to save that now. And you may say, well, Susan, I don't I can't do that. And I'd say, you better get your head on straight, because if you saw the news today, I was watching CNBC while I was doing weights in my home office this morning. If you saw what's going on in the markets, government shutdown, it's a train wreck. I don't think the worst is over. That's just my speculation. I'm not telling you what to trade or not to trade, but get your emergency cash if you don't already have it. And then number 4 is schedule date nights. You know, I realized in my marriage last year, I was like, yeah, we're going to schedule these date nights. And I think Chris and I had our first fight, and I'm like, I'm not scheduling date nights. Now, we've been together for almost 20 years. And when we first started going out, he knew I had been diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. I was a single mom. I had been a millionaire, and then I lost it all. You know, so, I mean, seriously, he you know, I had every scarlet letter. If you've ever read my book, The Have It All Woman. And you know, and 20 years is a long time. Let's put it that way. In today's modern marriages, that's like, you know, dog years in a marriage. That's like 140. But scheduling the date nights. And so yesterday we were running. We went out and ran 9 miles. And I said to him, you know, what are some fun things you want to do? The economy, you know, we're going to be fiscally conservative this year, obviously spending money in our business, but not spending money lasciviously. And so it's like hiking, going biking, all of that stuff. So we are scheduling those. Number 5 is learn something new every day. This is probably the thing that really accelerated my revenue this year. I have a passion for learning, and I love YouTube. YouTube is a game changer, because really you can learn anything from Mandarin to how to change a carburetor. I haven't done that tutorial yet. Every single thing, you can learn it on YouTube. So every morning that I don't do hot yoga, I actually do weights in my home office, and I watch videos. Neil Patel, I watch Gary Vee, my friend Brandon Steiner. I watch like so many different people every single morning, and it gets me fired up, because I love to see how other people are hustling. I, you know, revamped my YouTube channel toward the end of the year, so you can check out, we take this video, we put it on YouTube. I put fresh content in there where I'm traveling and stuff like that. So YouTube is amazing. And I heard Tony Hsieh, who was the founder of Zappos, he sold it to Amazon for $1 billion. I love Tony Hsieh. I heard him say every morning he does 10 minutes of YouTube, and I'm like, Tony Hsieh, I love you. I'm going to do 10 minutes of YouTube every day. So that one is phenomenal. Number 6, take a course. Skills pay the bills. So I'm actually taking a course in options trading, options, futures, and straight trading. So I haven't taken a stock market trading course in years and years and years. Years ago, I did my stockbroker certification in Canada. I never practiced as a broker. I did intern at a brokerage back in the, oh my gosh, I want to say late 80s, my friends, late 80s. I know some of you weren't even born then. Anyway, so take a course. The skills really do pay the bills. And I love the courses on Live Creative. Oh my gosh, $49, $99. I took my friend Marcus Murphy's course. He is a LinkedIn trainer. It was $49, Marcus Murphy. And Marcus is a friend of mine. I have, if you are a subscriber, I have a big newsletter coming out next week on social media trends for 2019. My friend Dennis Yu, who consults to Facebook, Mark is quoted. I have some different people. It's going to be awesome. So subscribers get that content. It's going to be phenomenal. And so take a course. That one is awesome. All right, next one is be early. Carrie Underwood said this: on time is late, early is on time. And, it's really selfish, the people who constantly are late. And this is one that I'm working on, because I like to squeeze every second into the day. So it's never to hurt anyone's feelings, but I'm like, so I'm going to be early. And my business partner in Radius, he is always early. So he's an inspiration for me. Next one is plan your day in advance. Jim Rohn taught me this personally years ago, and the late Jim Rohn was such a beautiful person. I spoke on stage with him live, the last time he ever spoke live, at my friend Jeff Combs' event many years ago. And Jim always said, end your day before you start your day. And I know Brenda Burchard talks about this, and it's very easy, and I'm speaking to the parents right now to go, oh, forget it, I'm not going to do it. I do it every single night. And this one habit alone has made me millions and millions of dollars. And so what I do the night before, I look at my calendars. I have an online calendar, a paper planner, and I look at it and I write out what I'm doing the next day. I'm very intentional. I make a list of things to accomplish. It's only ever 8. It's like 8 main ones. And then, and I plan it. And if there's something that's not in alignment with my goals and objectives, it goes. I will cancel appointments, because sometimes when I say yes to something, it's in the heat of the moment. And then I sit back and I go, that doesn't make sense. And in 2019, as I am more involved in tech, you know, and growing my businesses, there are things and people I do have to say no to. So that I look at things and I'm like, no, this is what has to go. And so everything I do in my business life has to be in alignment with what I say I want, or I'm out of integrity. Does that make sense? Hopefully it does. All right. That leads me to the next one. Say no to anything that does not align with your goals. So you made the goal in 2019 to lose weight, and your girlfriends invite you out for margaritas on a Tuesday. You know that's only going to end badly. You're like, I'm not going to drink any. I'm not going to eat chips and salsa. Yes, you are. Just say no. It doesn't align with what you say you want. You said you want to make more money in your business, but you know, you've scheduled some time to prospect for new clients. And instead of doing that, your friend is like, hey, you know, let's go to the matinee in the middle of the day. And you're like, that sounds good. And you don't do it. And then you complain because your results aren't what you say you wanted, right? So you have to say no. And anyone I know, myself included, who's ever become a millionaire, they become very, very good at saying no. And some of you are yesaholics. You say yes to every single thing. And I have an archetype of you that I created. I have 6 different archetypes of different organizational personalities. And I teach this in my course. But there's one personality type that says yes to everyone, everything, ends up very resentful, starts packing on the weight and the pounds, and ends up getting really sick and struggles a lot. And if that's you, no is your new favorite word. When I'm working on a book and someone said to me, oh, I'm going to write a new book. I was on the plane with this gal. She's like, I'm writing a new book. I'm just going to turn my keynote speeches over to a ghostwriter. And she said, how many books have you written? I said, 7. And I said, I wrote them all myself because, you know, I can, and I type, and I'm, you know, about 100 words a minute, and I can get very focused. And, you know, the reality is that, you know, when I'm in that mode, or I'm just finishing the pre-Series A for Radius, and then we're going to Series A, or growing my agency, or whatever it is I'm doing, no is my new favorite word. This is my favorite one. Some of you know I worked in health and nutrition for a long time. Give up sugar during the week. Sugar is poison. It is toxic. It when you see a brain that is you know, when you see, thank you, Deanne, when you see a brain on sugar and a brain on drugs, they look almost similar. So during the week, giving up sugar, there is no good thing that can come from sugar. Honestly, it is a depressant. It gives you a high, it gives you a low, in addition to weight gain and diabetes and all sorts of things that it does. Studies are now linking sugar to cancer and different things. So give up sugar during the week. Personally, during the last quarter, I gave up any starchy carbs. I went more keto-based diet during the week. And then on Sundays, I do my long run. One of my goals, and you can hold a space for me this year, is I want to qualify for my 7th Boston Marathon. And so on the night before my long run, I will have some more carbs than my normal, but during the week, I'm at about net 30 grams of carbs in a day rather, and I feel phenomenal. I dropped a bunch of weight. It's amazing. I'm so clear. Number 12 is 11, write lunchtime love notes to your kids. You know, your kids may be on cell phones and you're texting them. I had to go to San Francisco on Thursday and to meet with our development team, our Silicon Valley dev team. So I was there for a meeting. I had to leave the house. My flight was one of those 5:55 a.m. flights, and I'm like, oh. But before I left, 2 of my kids were in final exams, and I wrote them love notes, and my littlest one, I wrote a love note, and I left them all love notes. And my son, who is on the spectrum, you know, every day when he used to take his lunch, I wrote him little Post-it notes. And now my older kids, who are 16 and 21 and 25, I still text them messages. I'm so proud of you. You're amazing. You're my gift from God. You can do anything. You can be anything. And it's just that constant greatness that I'm pouring into them. And then they all text me back and, Mommy, I'm so proud of you. And one of the greatest gifts, I want to share this story. I love you too, Michelle. From Friday. So Friday was a bananas day. You know, I was running around. I was on a 90-minute attorney call. It was supposed to be 15 minutes. It's 90 minutes. And like, go, go, go. And I had planned to take my girls to the Nutcracker here in Phoenix. And so, you know, it shouldn't have been this way, but we're rushing out the door. And so I said to my girls, I said, you know, Mommy's been working a lot because obviously I'm working really hard so we can solidify ourselves here in America and keep you in your schools and do all these great things. And I'm just laying it all out. So, you know, this with me, what you see is what you get. You know, I have to tell you, you know, to get to this point in vulnerability, it's one of my hopes is that my friends who do the big speaking events, they'll get to this point in vulnerability, because I know I'm going down a rabbit hole. I'm so sick of these people. And especially this is to the men out there going on stage, you're selling your $40,000 product and you're pretending like your life is so perfect, but you're fighting with your wife in the background. Why don't you just start telling people you do fight with your wife? Like, stop creating false idols. Okay, I'm over that. I said that. One of the things I do want to say, though, just with regard to this is, so we're driving the car and I said to the girls, let's get raw and real. Total amnesty. Just tell Mommy how you feel with me working so hard. And my 13-year-old started first and she said, Mommy, I'm so grateful. You're an amazing role model. You are, you know, you're working so hard and yet you're still there for us. And even if you're not physically here, because last week I was in New York for 2 days and then San Francisco, she said, you're always here for us. And then all my girls went around and shared the same thing. And it was so touching, because I think if we're teaching our kids to hustle and hard work, then we're preparing them for the future, because in the future, there are going to be fewer minimum wage jobs. They're going to be replaced by robots. They already are. Right here in Phoenix, there's a McDonald's that's almost all run by robots. Our kids are eventually going to experience a life with self-driving cars and trucks. That's going to wipe out thousands and thousands of jobs of just truck drivers alone. So much of that is coming, and the kids who are taught to have an amazing work ethic, they're going to be the ones that succeed. But the kids who are taught that it's okay, everyone gets a medal and you can just Netflix and chill all day, they're going to be in big trouble. So I love that I get to be a great role model for my kids. All right, number 12 is write 10 items of gratitude daily. I would start this now. Any friends of mine who've ever made $1 billion or more in a year in a company they built, and I know a few, they were profoundly grateful all the way up. They were grateful on the days they had lawsuits. They were grateful on the days that their kids were challenging them. They were grateful on the days when they were exhausted. And they were grateful on the days when they had 9 meetings back to back, or one of their top staff quit or whatever. And it's easy to say stuff like, oh, I'll be grateful when I'm a billionaire. No, you'll never be a billionaire if you're not grateful. All right, number 13 is information, not inundation. So some of you are so addicted to constantly being on the news, like CNN, constantly negative news. You're addicted to watching it nonstop. And unless you're working from one of those media outlets, you don't get paid to do that. So set up your phone with alerts. So I actually have alerts that come to my phone. I do every important thing that's happening. I get a little alert, but I don't just sit there and watch it. I will watch CNBC sometimes on my laptop while I'm working out, because I do trade. And as I go into options trading as a hobby, I want to know what's happening in the markets. But again, you can set those alerts. I get alerts from Market Watch. I get alerts from BBC, Fox. You know, I don't have to go into all of it, but I get these little alerts throughout the day. They actually come to my smartwatch, my Garmin, and I know what's going on. But I'm not sitting there just watching it because I don't have time for that. It doesn't make any sense. Number 14 is pour greatness into 3 people daily and keep score. And what I mean by that is My goal every day is to contribute to 3 people, and I write their names down in my notebook, and I hold myself accountable. So I know that if I do that 3 times a day, even if I only do it 5 times a week over the course of a year, let's begin to think about that. That's going to be about 250 people that I poured greatness into, minimum. Right? So as we begin to think about that, pardon me, that's not 250, it's about 750. That's my bad on the math there. It's a lot of people, but I do keep score. I do write names down. Some days it's more than 3. I like to get up in the morning and just, connect with a bunch of people. And sometimes it's easy to talk to people who are like you and love you. It's another thing to pour greatness into people who potentially maybe done something that's hurt you. And so thinking about that very deeply, that's an amazing habit to have. Send 1 handwritten note of gratitude per week. So, people are, when I go to my mailbox, I don't know about you, but it's like a lot of direct mail, junk mail and stuff like that. And I think about the forests, my God. But anyway, writing, going to the mailbox and having just a random note of gratitude. I had a dinner party, not last Saturday, the Saturday before, and I cooked Indian food. I'm actually not bad at it. I made 4 different dishes, or 4 or 5 anyway, and I was cooking for 8 hours. And it was lovely because a couple of the people who came to the dinner party sent me handwritten notes. And I think as old-fashioned as that is, it really speaks volumes about character. So getting in the habit of doing that handwritten note. And next is 16, surprise someone each day with a random act of kindness. So my flight last week, flying to New York from Phoenix last Monday, the pilot comes on and said, we'd like to acknowledge someone very special. His name is Aaron. And Aaron made handwritten Christmas cards for every one of the flight attendants and the pilots on the airplane. It was his first time going to New York, and the flight attendant who was in where I was sitting, she cried a bit. She said, in 30 years working for this airline, I have never received a Christmas card. And that little boy, I think the pilot landed with more care. I think the pilot avoided more turbulence because that little boy was on board. And it was so special when we landed in New York. He said, I just want to come on and I want to welcome Aaron to New York. And as we're flying in, he was like there, and pointing at the different landmarks. There's the Statue of Liberty and stuff like that. And how beautiful to just randomly do that for someone. I mean, it can be anything. I've taught my kids to always hold the door for people, so they're not the little, there's a British term called git, which means a horrid person. They're not the little git who is like running into Barnes and Noble in front of the elderly person. Even my littlest one, my 9-year-old, she holds the door for people. It's just, it could be anything. Number 17 is saying no to gossip. I have a no gossip policy, and it's just how I live my life. And, it's amazing the temptation that comes, because this person called me and they were like, well, what do you think of so-and-so? And, I could have said different things, but what I said was, I actually don't do a lot of business with that person. I changed the topic. I'm not comfortable with people who are gossipy, because if they're gossiping to me, they're gossiping about me. And in this world of social media and rapid fire communication, if you're talking about people behind their back, 100% of the time, they will find out about it. And so I just have a policy in the companies I run. We don't do that. And, it's actually one of the core values. And I hire and fire people by the core values. And as I grow, the tech company, the same thing is going to occur. We will hire and fire by the core values. And that's what Tony Hsieh does at Zappos. And it makes so much sense. All right. Start your day with gratitude, not Instagram. So often what I mean by this, when people roll out of bed and they're looking at their phone, that's just a license to make you feel bad, because you go on Instagram, it's like, oh, so-and-so looks amazing in her bikini and I don't. Or, so-and-so, look at those two. They're having this romantic dinner and I haven't been on a date in 5 years. Okay, most of the photos are staged. Okay, that's number 1. Number 2, any good photo you see has been edited So it makes everyone look like their pimples, or they have no pimples. Their pores are a size of a newborn's pores. Like seriously, they're 10 pounds lighter because they know how to edit all the beautiful photos. So stop doing that to yourself. Don't scroll your phone first thing. That is you know, and studies have been done that it causes anxiety for people. So I like to start my day just, you know, black cup of coffee, gratitude, prayer, you know, and that's the next one. Number 19 is starting your day with some meditation and prayer. And so what I like to do is I go into gratitude, then I go into some prayer. And I love what Joel Osteen says, which is this: prayer is when you're talking to God. Meditation is when you're listening to God. So starting it with at least 5 minutes. I am up to about 30 minutes now. So I like to, you know, get up, it's quiet in the house, sit there, pray, meditate, maybe some journaling, and then I'm off to the races, because how I start my day is how I tend to live my day. And if my day gets off to a rocky start, it's not good. And even when I'm traveling, I will get up earlier, I'll start this routine, get some exercise in. Number 20 is look at your money daily. You've got to look at your money daily. Oh my gosh, I have worked with more people who are like, my financial advisor does that. Well, I had a client, she came to my Have It All Women event, and during the last recession, she didn't look at her money daily. She was like, Susan, I don't need to. I have someone who runs my portfolio. She had received an inheritance of $500,000. She was still working. She thought she could retire early. She didn't pay attention, and that portfolio went from 500,000 to 80,000, and she had to extend her work time by 10 years. So pay attention to your money daily, log into your banking. I just had credit card fraud over the weekend. So I land on Thursday night. Now you guys are getting my whole life, right? Land on Thursday night. It's 10 o'clock at night, and I'm like, I just want to snuggle with my husband on the sofa, have a glass of wine, and I turn on my phone after landing. First thing, credit card fraud alert. I'm like, oh, geez Louise, right? That's how I landed Thursday. So it happens. That's why I always am looking at my banking every single day. I have alerts that come to my phone. If you haven't done all that, I know it sounds like common sense, but just because something is common sense doesn't make it common practice. The next thing is moving your body every day. Okay, we live in a very sedentary world, and unless you live in New York or maybe San Francisco where you're used to walking, biking, a lot of people, especially when I lived in Canada, it's like stay in the house, just, you know, you're not exercising as much. And there is nothing better for you mentally or physically than moving your body daily. Now, you may say, well, Susan, it's easy for you. You love to work out. But what you don't maybe know is I used to be 200 pounds, and it wasn't always easy. Sometimes I have to make myself work out. And, you know, people are like, you shouldn't have to make yourself do anything. Well, if it's good for you, sometimes you might have to make yourself do it. And, you know, it only takes 20 minutes to trigger the 4 hormones responsible for fat loss. So even if I'm traveling, and last Monday when I landed in New York, I said to my business partner, I'm like, I'm going to the gym. I didn't feel like going to the gym. I had done my hair and makeup in the morning. I'm like, now I've got to go to the gym, hair and makeup again. But I'm like, you know what? No, I went to the gym. I got a workout. Then we had a business dinner. We were out until midnight. I had to get up at 5 a.m. the next morning. I don't recommend that much sleep. Sometimes when I'm traveling, to be very candid, it happens. But I was not giving up my workout before I headed to do Brandon Steiner's show. So, you know, you just make time for it. It is essential. The next one, 22, is finish your day with something uplifting. And I remember Jim Rohn saying that only 10% of people will ever do what I suggest you do. But ironically, only 10% of people end up becoming 6- and 7-figure earners. So there you go, right? And so one of the things he said is finish your day with something uplifting. And he said, everything you need to know about becoming a millionaire is written in the New Testament. Now, I know I have friends here who are Jewish. Maybe you don't read the New Testament, you read the Torah, Kabbalah. I hadn't been reading the Bible. I grew up Christian, Buddhist, Jewish. I had my times when I was younger. I'm like, hello, God, are you there? And now I'm like an unabashed believer. And it's not about being religious. It's just a choice of what I believe. And so I do not finish any day without reading the New Testament. Right now I'm going through the book of Luke, obviously since it's Christmas and, celebrating the birth of Jesus. And, and that's just what I choose to do. And so make a choice to do something that nurtures your spirit. And maybe you're wrestling with your belief. But I promise you, if you've ever done any guided meditation and prayer, then you can say you don't believe in God, but chances are you do, because who's listening if you're saying this stuff? Just a question. But develop your spiritual practice, because life is going to be really hard if you don't feel connected to something that is much bigger than you. All right, number 23 is visit your dreams daily. So I always have a vision board every year's. This year with the kids, it's the same thing we do every single year. I go to Staples and I get these file folders and piles of magazines and glue sticks and scissors. And I like a bit of bling, so I go to Michael's and I get sticky sparkles and all this stuff. And every year we make vision boards. So Emery, the youngest, she makes a vision board. Everyone makes a vision board, and they know that it's stuff not just stuff they want, but it's like their health goals, their growth goals. And last year at this time, one of my kids was not getting great marks, and maybe it's because I'm 45% Chinese. I'm like all tiger mom on her, and it wasn't really working. And so what I realized is just like when I'm training audiences, the inspiration has to come from within. And sometimes as a parent, I feel so sorry. My friend is Tony Robbins' son. I feel so sorry for the kids of personal development trainers. I really do. But anyway, I was like, okay, Susan, you go and teach this to audiences. So how can you bring this back to your house? So what I did is I said to this particular daughter of mine who was 12 then, I said, honey, tell me, do you want to improve your marks? And she's like, well, yeah, kind of. And I said, okay, so let me ask you, if you did want to improve your marks, why would you want to improve them? And she said, well, I think I can do better. I think I can be more organized. I just, I don't really know what I want to do. And some of these classes I don't really like. And I said, well, here's the thing. What if getting good grades actually opened you up to more possibilities, and that would allow you to take more classes that you actually enjoy? She's like, oh, okay. So anyway, she makes her vision board, and it's all about getting good grades and riding horses, and all of this stuff. And sure enough, here we are a year later. Her report card was almost straight A's, and her class, she almost failed Mandarin Chinese last year. She has an A in Mandarin. And she just got 96%. Here's this Canadian kid getting 96% on US history. So, so we do this as a family every single year, and visual is memorable. Go ahead and write that down. So I have a big vision board that I created in my home office. I have my portable one that I take when I travel, and visual is memorable. And so that, being in the habit of, you can create your vision board right now, but being in the habit of looking at it daily, taking that time just to imagine yourself achieving. And you don't have to know how these things are going to happen. If you'll indulge me with a quick story. Hey, Stephanie, can't wait to see you later. If you'll indulge me with a quick story. So I know some of you in 2017, as I said, had your highs and lows, and maybe you shrunk your dreams a bit. Well, I had a year, it's going to be now 2012. It was not a great, there were some challenges. I got a retro tax bill for $480,000. $480,000, a retro tax bill. And I'm like, okay, call up the attorney, negotiate, decide to pay it. This is how we're going to pay it. And on my vision board at the beginning of that year, it said, we are loving our week-long stay at the Four Seasons in Bali. And I had this picture of this villa. So imagine you have a tax bill and you're going to pay this thing off almost $500,000 in 10 months. And, that's not bad compared. Tony Robbins told the story at an event where he had a retro tax bill. I think it was like $50 million from the state of California. sometimes governments just do this stuff. They need to make money. So anyway, I get this tax bill. I'm like, okay. And I'd been paying my taxes, obviously. My husband's a CPA. I'm like, okay, all right. All right, we'll do it. Fine. So, I didn't know. I kept looking at this every day. I'm making my calls. I'm doing business, Four Seasons, Bali. It's expensive to go to Bali when you're flying all of your kids and you want to stay there at this Four Seasons. And I get this call right toward the end of this last tax installment, and we were paying like $40,000 a month. And they said, do you want to come train for us? And you can write your own training. It's going to be a group of entrepreneurs. We're going to pay your airfare first class. And it's in Bali at the Four Seasons. And this was back in 2012. And they said the event's going to be in 2013. I said, how about yes? And so we flew to Bali. We ended up staying in this exact same, this was 2012 was the year of the taxes. Sorry, this was going into 2014. We ended up staying at this exact same resort that I had been looking at on my vision board for 2 years. And the cool thing is when we flew over, we ended up getting upgraded by the grace of God. It was just all these things happened. And I want to tell you that story because if I wasn't looking at that every day, even every day, writing those tax checks, and when I wrote the tax checks, that leads me to my final 24th habit of getting into this year is, being grateful for the stuff that you normally wouldn't be grateful for. And I talked about being grateful every day, these 10 items of gratitude, but could you, if you get a bill, go, you know what? I'm grateful for this bill because this bill has meaning. It kept my lights on. It was the blood work I needed. It was, whatever it is, I'm paying my taxes and it's going toward this. And, you might not agree with that politically or what have you, but, some things do transcend politics, to be very candid. And so this, car loan bill I have, I'm grateful for that because I have a car to drive, or my mortgage because I have a roof over my head, and to be grateful for these things when they come in. I was on Brandon Steiner's show last week, and one of my final thoughts for you today is this, that I read a quote many years ago in the Canadian national newspaper. There's two of them. This one's called the Globe and Mail. And it said, by Anonymous, you've become successful when the things you used to the things you used to dream about are the things you now complain about. And I'll say it again. You have become successful when the things you used to dream about are the things you now complain about. You wanted that relationship, that man, and you were in love and you got married and now you complain about him. You wanted a business with residual income and you thought, oh my gosh, if I can make $2,000 a month, it's going to be a game changer. Now you make $5,000 a month, but you used to make 10 and now you're complaining. You used to dream of being an adult when you were a teenager. You could go where you want, do what you want, but now you're complaining. Think about it. Think about it. The bonus 25th habit is just be in the habit of not complaining. Count your blessings. I believe and declare over all of you and pray over all of you that 2019 is going to be an above and beyond year. I want to hear about the habits that you want to create. I would love, if you haven't done so, go to my website, susansly.com, sign up for my newsletter. I take these notes and I send them to you every single week. My people on my list get special offers and coupons and things like that. My class, Organize Your Life for Entrepreneurs, is coming up in January, but I have a free gift for you. It's an organizational masterclass. It's free on January 8th, and you just have to go to susansmasterclass.com and register. susansmasterclass.com. And during that time, I'm going to give you specific strategies on how to become more organized and productive, because the number one enemy of success, in my opinion, is lack of organization. 2019, you can make more money. You can have all the time to work out, be a great mom, grandma, dad, grandpa, brother, sister, friend, lover. You can do it all. You really can. if you're smart with your time and you know what to do. And many of you could be at a whole different level right now as we finish the year, but you've wasted time this year. So susansmasterclass.com, register, share the link. It's a free masterclass. There are prizes for people who register for the masterclass. So go ahead and check that out. And with that, it's been great to be here with all of you. If this has been helpful, I'd love for you to share it. And with that, as I said, regardless of what you believe, this isn't about religion for me. This is about God. And so with that, I am praying for you. I'm praying that you'll just have just a beautiful, blessed, above and beyond finish to 2018, an amazing 2019. I do Bulletproof Monday every single Monday, unless I'm physically on an airplane, in which case I move it to a different time. But I do it at 3 o'clock Mountain Time, 2 o'clock Pacific, every single Monday. And if you have a topic, I read all of your comments, all of your questions. So please do just post it, anything you'd love for me to share. So with that, again, God bless, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and let's finish the year strong. Goodbye, everyone.